Guys, this past weekend while my husband was off of work, we made our annual Christmas jam. I got the recipe off of Pinterest and made it last year. This year, I decided I was going to change it up a little bit. It calls for cranberries and strawberries. And this year I also added some cherries, and it turned out amazing. But we filmed it, and I'm just going to take you through that. But I wanted to let you know what all we kind of did to begin with. Okay, right here, my husband is taking the fruit. We used frozen strawberries, as the recipe called for, and frozen cherries, I believe. And then we had fresh cranberries. But we added them all together, and we added them with the 5 pounds of sugar. Now, you have to chop the fruit up, but you don't have to do it real fine. You can do it finely, or you can do it chunky. Now, right here, it's hadn't started boiling yet, but it is starting to foam up. And that is something, if you've never put up jelly or jam before, that it does. Now, we have gotten it to a rolling boil. It boiled for a full minute, and now we have added the Sure-Jell, and we're waiting 5 minutes. It has to set, and it should start to gel up. Now we're going to start filling our jars, okay? It was supposed to make 14 half pints. It ended up making 24 quarter pints and a couple of pints, and then about a half pint. So it probably ended up making about what it was supposed to make. We use the smaller jars because we give them away as Christmas presents. We keep some for ourselves, of course, but we give them away as Christmas presents. Now you have to leave a 1/4 inch headspace in the jar, so you don't fill it all the way to the rim. You leave about a 1/4 of an inch, and you can see that I'm wiping, just taking and wiping the tip of the jars off. You want to make sure that if any jelly or jam or whatever it is you're making gets on the rim of the glass, that you take and wipe it off. Now, I always just give it a good little wipe anyway. I want my lids to have a good seal. And because they won't seal otherwise. And especially when you're dealing with jam, you've got little particles of fruit, and that will keep the lid from going down all the way, and it will cause the lid not to seal, and you want it to seal. So as he's filling these, I am wiping the lid, wiping the glass top, putting the lid on, which we have sterilized, and then putting the cap ring on, and then I'm setting them over into the water bather. And those of you that can know what I'm talking about. You do not have to put these in a pressure canner. Jelly and jam can be done in the water bath, and it's going to go in the water bath for about 10 minutes after it comes to a boil. Now, once it comes to a rolling boil, I turn mine down to a medium heat, which it continues to boil, but I don't leave it on high the whole time. Now, you want to remember that it's very hot. The steam is very hot, so be very careful when you take the lid off, and also make sure you cover your jars with water, okay? Make sure your lid is secure. You don't want to tighten it too tight because it can cause some issues, but you want it tight enough to where the water's not going to get in there when it starts boiling, okay? So we're going to finish up filling these jars and get them in the water bather, the canner, and we are going to turn that timer on for 10 minutes, and then we're going to take them out and line them up on the counter where they can dry. And you should hear that wonderful little ping, ping, ping little song us canners joke about. As they seal, you'll hear the lids popping, and it makes like a little ping sound. You can see we're filling that half pint now. We've got a wide mouth half pint that he's gonna fill. But I'm gonna tell you, you can get 12 quarter pint jars in a normal size canner at a time. You don't stack them on top of each other, but just to fit them all in there. So I got boxes of 12, so I was able to do all my quarter pints at the same time. And then I had to do a third 10-minute bath on my half pints and my pint. But it turned out really pretty. It's a really pretty color red. It is a sweet but yet tart jam. And I think that the cherries helped with that. I'm really excited that I decided to use the cherries instead of just using the cranberries and the strawberries. One way you can adjust your Sure-Jell or your liquid pectin or whatever it is you decide to use. Make sure, because when you add extra fruit, okay, and depending on what type of fruit it is, you need to make sure your balance of sugar and fruit is good. Okay, and you need to make sure that you're using enough Sure-Jell. So I added a little extra, so I had to add a little extra Sure-Jell because I had a little bit more than what the recipe actually called for. Those of you just starting out, just follow the recipe. If you've never canned before, it'll just be better for you. But if you're a seasoned canner, you know you got to have that balance, and sometimes you have to add a tablespoon or two of lemon juice to give it a little more acidity, depending on what type of fruit you're using. And you can put you a little bowl of ice water beside the stove as you're cooking it, and you can like take a little test and drip a little in the ice water, and if it starts to gel and getting thick and all, you'll be able to tell if it forms a soft ball that it's ready. Some jellies and jams, you'll put the Sure-Jell in while it's on the stove. And depending on if you're using Sure-Jell or liquid pectin or whatever, they all have their own instructions depending on how you do it. So just make sure you read your instructions and make sure that you are following the directions and following the measurements as closely as possible. And if it calls for 5 cups of sugar, don't try to put less in there. I mean, it calls for 5 cups for a reason, okay? And different recipes will call for different amounts of fruit and different amounts of sugar. So try to, as closely as possible, follow the recipe, or you're going to have really runny jam that's going to be more like pancake syrup or ice cream topping than you will jam that you can spread on biscuits and toast. Okay, so just think about that. Now you can make any kind of jam you want. You don't even, this is just Christmas jam and it's a pretty red, but you can make blueberry jam or peach jam or whatever kind of jam you want to make, but just be sure and follow the directions. It's got to be a certain alkalinity or a certain acidity for different kinds of fruits. So be sure and pay attention to that. Okay, we've got all our jars filled. We've got the canners. You can see them over there on the stove. You see the little pie plate there on the little burner. That's what I've got my lids in, making sure that they are ready to go on top of the jars. And I had to put a few extra in there because I ran out of jars, so I had to prepare some more jars, and now I'm preparing some more lids. But as soon as the water bathers get done, we will take the jam out and place it on the towel. so that it can cool and it can start pinging and we can hear that sound that the canners like to hear. And I'm using a little magnetic thing to pick the lids up in place so that I don't put my fingers or anything under there. Now, a lot of older people back in the day used to use wax, but if you're canning them in the canners and you're getting a good seal on them, you don't have to use the wax. A lot of people used to use the wax back in the day, but it's really not recommended by the USDA. It is oftentimes, even using the wax, the jelly will go bad. So you want to put them in that canner, and you want to bathe them and get that good seal so that they're good for years on the shelf. I order stickers from a place online, and because I like for mine to look pretty. So I've got some pretty little Christmas Jam stickers coming. They haven't come in yet, but as soon as they come in, I'm gonna label them all. Now, once you take them out of the canner and put them on the towel, once they cool completely, don't mess with them once they're there. Just let them sit there overnight or whatever. Let them all seal. Once you do that, the next morning you're going to have to take a damp rag and you're going to have to wipe the lids and wipe the glass off, and it'll get a little film on it and from being in the boiling water, and you just wipe it off and clean it up real good. And then you decorate it how you want to. If you want to tie a ribbon around it and put a sticker on the top, or however you want to do it. And I always date mine. I always put a date on it so that I know what year and what month I canned it. And I do that for the people I give it to, but I also do it for myself, because right now I've got 2 or 3 different kinds of jelly and jam and fig preserves and all kinds of things in the cabinets. And of course, we're not going to eat it all in one year, but I want to know when it's canned so I know what I need to eat first, or if I'm eating one more than the other. But I'm waiting on these to boil. When they start boiling, steam will start coming out in the sides, just like this right here. And so you just kind of make sure it's at a rolling boil like that. Set your timer for 10 minutes. Turn your burner down to a medium high from a high. And as soon as that timer goes off, you take it out. And I use a pair of tongs. You can buy little things that's made for canning that picks the jars up, and I have one, but it's in storage because I haven't moved it here from when we sold our house. We're trying to renovate this house before we move all the kitchen stuff over, but I'm just using a pair of tongs, and I'm taking them out and I'm setting them on the towel. And like I said, just don't touch them. Let them sit there overnight. They'll start to sing to you and start to seal. And then you want to check them in the morning and make sure that they all did seal. And you can do that by pressing lightly on the top. And if you don't hear a pop, then you know that they're sealed. A lot of times you can just look at the lids and see. But just make sure that they all sealed. And if you have a can, I had one that did not seal, by the way, the next morning. And I just stuck it in the refrigerator. We're going to eat it first. But the rest of them sealed good. But that's really all it is to it. There's not a whole lot more to do. And then you've got these wonderful gifts that people love to get. At least my friends do. They love it. And they wait on my Christmas jam. Like, I had somebody the other day say, "Are you going to make any more of that Christmas jam this year?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. And I'll bring you some." So, it's good gifts. It's good to put up in the cabinet. And when you make biscuits one morning, you've used it all up in the refrigerator, you just reach up in the cabinet and get you another jar. It's not that expensive to make. Just buying a 5-pound bag of sugar, and I already had some of the jars, and some of the jars I bought. So I always ask for my jars back. So when I get my little sticker printed, I always say, please return the jar when done, and I'll refill it for you. So, I think the ones I got this year are just going to say, please return the jar. But anyway, great gift idea. Lovely. And look how pretty it turned out. Look at that red. It looks really good, and it is so yummy. Hope y'all have enjoyed the video. Give me a like. Give me a big thumbs up. And join me. I'm going to be doing some more stuff.